I'm going to show you in a step-by-step fashion how to troubleshoot your faulty microwave oven. Now before we start, I'm going to go over a few things that you will need to carry out this troubleshooting procedure. You're going to need a good digital multimeter.
هنتكلم دلوقتي عن المالتيميتر ديجيتال.
You're also going to need a couple of jumper wires.
ديجيتال.
You can get these at Radio Shack
وهنستخدم برضو
or any
الجمبر
other
وايرز
electronic supply store. They're relatively
نشتريها ولو
inexpensive.
عندنا نجيبها.
You're also going to need a Phillips
كمان
and slot
المفكات
screwdriver.
مهم جدا
You're
استخدم
also going
مفكات.
to need a 20 kilo
ومقاومة
ceramic resistor like this.
resistance
It could be a
دي عبارة عن
5 watt,
20
10
كيلو
watt,
أوم.
or even higher. If you cannot find a 20
دي بتبقى من حوالي ال 10 15 واط
at your electronic supply store, then
و
you
20
can look for a
كيلو
lower value all the way down to a 1
من أي محل
kilowatt.
إلكترونات.
But make sure it has a sufficient wattage, so try and look for a ceramic one. You can also look in old
لازم يكون ليها برضه
old
فولتج
television
كفاية.
sets and stereo equipment, and they also
ممكن
come with
نستخدمها
this.
من
That's a ceramic resistor.
نخلعها من تلفزيون أو
So you can
جهاز
use one
كاسيت
of these,
قديم
and you
فيها
can pull
سيراميك
it out of the old
ريزيستنس
equipment and use that. A lot of
بالمنظر
microwave
دوت.
ovens use a tamper-proof Torx screw on the cabinet to open it. So
وهنحتاج برضو طقم مفكات أو لقم عشان نعرف نفك الميكروويف هو الشاسيه بتاعها.
You can find this at your local hardware store or Home Depot or Lowe's. Okay, so let me go over a few.
دي عبارة عن لقم وبتتركب المفك بتاعها وتشتغل.
Probably at least 20 of them.
ايه بقى المشاكل اللي ممكن تقابلنا في الميكروويف؟
I've repaired them for work. So I'll go over a few things that are very common. One issue might be
بعض المشاكل البسيطة ممكن تحصل أو كبيرة برضو.
that your receptacle has power by plugging in another appliance or a lamp just to make sure there is power. Another problem could be that when you turn on the microwave,
الباور تشيك عليها.
light comes on and the turntable spins, but you do not hear
اللمبة شغالة، الكهرباء شغالة جوه ولا لأ؟ في مروحة شغالة ولا لأ؟
You could have another problem. Food isn't getting hot enough. You can also have a problem that when you go to push start,
ممكن تكون السخونة مش كفاية في الفرن من جوه عشان تسخن. دي مشكلة تانية.
problems. I'm going to go over each one. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure the microwave oven has been unplugged.
دلوقتي احنا عايزين نفك الشاسيه ونشوف لو في مشكلة جوه. هنشيل الكفر وهنا بيوريك ان في هنا مسمار وهنا في برضه مسمارات اهو مكانه في الباك في الخلفية. وهنا فوق في مسمار تاني. الناحية التانية برضه في واحد من تحت.
Okay, once the screws have been removed from the cover, gently grab the sides.
بعد ما نفك المسامير من الكفر
tilt it up
نقدر نرفع الكفر بتاعنا بسهولة ونسحبه بالمنظر ده.
You're going to slide the front edge in and then tilt it down. Okay, the cover has been removed.
لو انت هتركب برضه
هتركب
المصدر.
microwave closest to the control panel.
احنا رفعنا الكفر كده.
You're going to have all the components.
دي الكنترول بانل بتاعي اللي هو فيه التاتش
أو
الزرار بتاعتي.
The first thing you're going to want to do is discharge this capacitor right here. It's an oval capacitor.
قبل ما تلمس أي حاجة مهم جدا إنك تفرغ الشحنة اللي في الكباستور دوت اللي بيشار عليه الفك.
resistor bleeding off the voltage when power is removed. It's still a very good idea to make sure there is no voltage there because it could be deadly. Now you're going to take the resistor.
ده ممكن يكون مميت الفولتج اللي هنا. فولتج عالي جدا. فشوف هنفرغ ازاي بيوصل للريزيستنس ديت اللي احنا قلنا عليها 20 كيلو. ده في سكرو والسكرو متوصل بالشاسيه او بالجراوند. بعد كده السكرو يعني هنوصل دي بالشاسيه او الجراوند الارضي. وبعد كده السكرو هنحطه فين؟ في الكباستور عشان نفرغ الشحنة لو في شحنة. دي أهم خطوة في موضوع لو أنا بفك الميكروويف عشان إيه ممكن الفولتج دوت ممكن يكون مميت. ماشي كويس خالص كده تفرغ إيه الشحنة بتاعتي.
Now, just to make sure it is fully discharged,
كده اتأكدت إن اتفرغت الشحنة.
Don't touch the clamp. Push it against the terminal. Reach into the other boot. Hold it there a few seconds.
برضه هنا بكمل تفريغ الشحن.
Now it's also a very good idea to take an insulated pair of needle nose, and once you've done all this, to go between the two and wiggle that around. If you get a loud spark, you didn't do a good job. So there should be no spark between the terminals. This is now discharged. Now you can safely work inside the unit. Now I'm going to point out all the
كل ده انا
connections of the
بتاكد ان مفيش
components.
تشارج.
This is your cooling fan. You have your capacitor right here.
بشيك على كل حاجه.
Right next to
الفان
the capacitor.
كباستر شغال دي عشان
Zoom in.
تكبر شويه.
This little black cylinder, that's your diode, high voltage diode. We'll be testing that.
في دايود هنا مهم جدا.
High voltage transformer.
متوصل بالارضي. في الهاي فولتج رهيب جدا.
This is the magnetron that produces
ضغط عالي.
microwaves.
ده الماجنترون اللي بيولد الميكروويف اساسا. وبياخد الكهرباء العاليه بتاعته من الترانسفورمر. الفولتج العالي.
You have your PC, the PC board low voltage transformer. You have your circuit
board.
You have the relay located
low voltage transformer بيغذي الكهرباء للدي سي. السيركت بورد بتاعتي والبي سي الصغير اللي هو بالكنترولر بتاع الايه.
This is what the switches look like.
في مايكرو سويتشز هنا مهمه جدا اللي هي على الباب.
Little button on each end.
ايوه.
When you push it in and out, it makes the connection between the two blades.
عشان لو الباب مفتوح هيقفل يقطع الدايره الكهربائيه وما يشتغلش الميكروويف.
Now right over here, this is the light that shines through the screen.
دي اللمبه اللي بتنور.
Microwave ovens, you're going to find that there is a little board here where the power supply comes in, and on that board will be a filter like this and a ceramic fuse. Now the fuse is a 15 amp slow blow fuse. It's ceramic. Now if your microwave is not working at all, you have no power display or anything else, you may just want to swap that fuse out because it may have just gotten worn out over time. So if you change that fuse and you notice there's no problems for a little while, then you're good to go. But generally when that fuse
الفيوز ده مهم جدا لو في مشكلة بيضرب لو الفولتج عالي أو حاجة أنت بتأكد إن الفيوز ده شغال افتح وشيك على
Now if the microwave oven is powered up and you have the digital display going and you open the door and the light comes on but the microwave will not turn on, then you could have a problem with one of your switches, which I pointed out earlier, which is this right here.
هنا بيقول لك لو شفت الفان شغالة واللمبة شغالة والديجيتال بورد شغالة الميكرو شغال، احتمال يكون واحد من الميكرو سويتش دوت فيه عطل. نختبر السويتش دوت. حطه على اللو ريزيستنس وهنقيس السويتش.
You're going to touch one probe of your connector to one lead and the other to that one. Like so. And then you push the button and that verifies the switch is working. Do it to all the switches you can find. It's usually 2 or 3. Now some of them when you connect it up like you see here, the alarm will already be on.
لأنه ادى الصوت هو بيختبر إن في شورت open ولا لا. هو كده شغال.
Now you're only going to test
هو كده normally
blades that have the wires
لما بقفله بيبقى closed.
If you have a switch like this that
has
has 3 and only 2 wires are on the switch, don't bother checking the one that's not connected to anything. Now, many microwave ovens have the power supply feeding through 1 or 2 thermal cutoff switches like that. What that's designed to do is if this gets too hot inside the microwave oven, this circuit opens up and these need to be replaced. Now the way to test them is the same way as the switch I just showed you. You're going to put the continuity tester
الكهرباء بحيث لو الفرن سخنت يفصل الكهرباء عن الفرن.
Like this.
ودي طريقة من الحماية. برضه ممكن هنا نشيك على السويتش دوت.
And this should have continuity.
في بعض الميكروويف يعني في السويتش دوت.
That's a good one. If you touch it and it doesn't go on,
كده شغال.
you know you have one that blew. You need to replace that.
ده المفروض يكون normally close. تمام؟ لما يسخن يفتح. هنا بيقول لك إن الباور follows from the PC power cord through the fuse. Faulty door switch can lead to a blown fuse.
If the fuse is good, the thermal cutoff is good, and all of your door switches are good, you should have full power to the microwave oven. If you don't, the next step is to make sure all of the blade
لو كل
connectors
الحاجات دي شغالة
attached
وبرضه
to
لسه
the
الميكرويف مش
switches
شغالة
and the thermal cutoff like this, make sure they're plugged in good. And
اختبرنا
then
احنا
you're going to have to
السيرموكابل
suspect
سويتش
that your low
والمايكرو
voltage
سويتش.
transformer on the circuit board, which is right here,
الحالة دي
that
بقى
is faulty. If the screw does
نختبر
not come on.
اللو فولتج ترانسفورمر.
You could refer to my other video, and it shows you in detail how to test this part right here if you feel yours is faulty. The link you can click it.
في هنا تختبر
Now,
الترانسفورمر
if you turn on the
بالتفصيل دي
microwave, the
موجود
light comes on, the
فيها طريقة
turntable is
تاني
turning,
ولازم
but you
تفكه
do not hear
وتختبره.
the
في
hum
فيديو بشرح كده
coming out of the
بالظبط.
microwave oven. And
ممكن
there's a
تدور
few
على
things that
فيديو
can
يشرح
cause the
ازاي
problem.
تختبر
Now, right on
اللو
the back
فولتج
of the circuit
ترانسفورمر.
board is a relay, which looks exactly like this once it's removed.
ده
This
الريلاي.
is what the relay looks like. You
ريلاي
have 3 pins that go into the circuit board.
عارفين
Solid
الريلاي.
pin. You got 2 blades sticking up. This is what the relay looks like when it's removed. And I've seen many times
الريلاي 3
that
بن
the
رايحين
microwave
للبوردة
is running with
و2
the
بره.
light on and the turntable's moving and you don't hear the transformer humming, that the contacts inside the relay have arced and they no longer make good contact. So what you're going to do to check to make sure this isn't faulty, you're
المفروض
going to
لما
make sure everything
يشتغل
is back together in the microwave.
المفروض الريلاي يعمل صوت يلقط.
You're going to put a cup of
لو ما
water in
عملش كده يبقى
there
الريلاي فيه مشكلة.
and you're going to power the microwave up with the cover off. And then while the microwave is running and you don't hear the hum and nothing's getting hot, gently take your screwdriver and just tap like this. Keep tapping the relay. Don't
لو
bang
ما
it too hard.
سمعتش الصوت بتاع التكة بتاع الريلاي لما
Now when you're
تشغل
tapping it like this, if
اخبط
you
بس
hear
على
the
الريلاي.
hum come on and the light dim, then you're going to know the magnetron right here is now active because you're getting power feeding into the primary side of the high voltage transformer. And that would indicate
في الحالة ديت لو
contacts
تكت
in your
تكة
relay.
الريلاي
You would then
كده
have to
اشتغل تاني
desolder the relay from the
وتلاقي
circuit board
الكهرباء
and
وصلت
install a new one like this,
لل
12 volt relay.
اللي هو المين ترانسفورمر وبالتالي هيغذي
Okay, so once you've established that tapping on the relay
ويسخن.
does not cause the transformer to be powered up to turn on the magnetron, you should hear a hum when it's running. If you don't hear a hum, it's not running right. Then the next step is to disconnect the power and discharge the capacitor once again. Once the capacitor has been discharged,
الحالة
you're
ديت
going
لو
to take your
سمعت
digital multimeter on the high
الريلاي
voltage AC
بيعمل
setting,
التكة بتاعته برضه
connect
ما
up one of the
بيشتغلش،
alligator
يعني
clips
المشكلة ممكن
to
تكون
one of
في
the
الكاباستور.
probes, reach in with the other end, clamp it onto the blade terminal of the primary side, which is the wires coming from the board. You don't want to touch these wires that are red. Stay away from these. Anything going to the capacitor, those are all high voltage. Take the other probe on the AC high voltage setting, and you're going to take that and connect that to the other side of the transformer.
احنا كده بنختبر
Now you're going to
البرايمري
plug
بتاع
the microwave
الترانسفورمر.
oven back in again and don't touch anything. Next you're
ما
going to
نشغل
put
ونشوف في
the
كهرباء واصلة هنا ولا
cup
لا.
of water in the microwave
بنقيس الفولتج يعني
and
ده.
repeat the procedure as before, just like you're going to cook something. And as soon as you push start,
هنحط كوباية
you're
مية
going to want to
جوه
look at this right here.
وهنشغل تاني ونشوف.
Make sure you see 120 volts being fed into the transformer.
المفروض يبقى
If
هنا
you see
120
120 and you still don't hear the
120
hum,
voltage
then we can move
according to
forward.
يعني حسب
If you
الفولت
don't
اللي
see
انت بتستخدمه
120,
في البيت.
then that's
110
going to
ولا 120.
indicate that there's definitely an issue with the relay mounted on the circuit board. You want to correct that before anything else. More than likely, once you correct that, everything will work fine. Now, if you do see 120 volts at the blade terminals on the primary side of the transformer, which is the real heavy wires wound, then we can move to the next step. So you see 120 volts on these terminals as the microwave is running, but you still do not hear the hum. The next step is to turn off the microwave oven and unplug it and discharge the capacitor.
طبعا احنا لو لقينا لما لقيناش 220 وصلنا لما شغلنا يبقى المشكله لسه برضه في الريلي. لو لقينا ال 220 يبقى هننتقل بقى يا اما في الترانسفورمر يا اما في الميكروفون. هنوصل هنخلع الانبوت اللي هو او الاوتبوت بتاع الترانسفورمر او الانبوت اللي هو داخل الميكروفون.
And the other blade goes into a different spot on the transformer. Just make sure you tape together the diode with the wire that's on the same blade. Now to release the top connector, you have to push down with a small pointed tool like this in the blade connector and pull, and it will
هنا
release.
كده بيشيل الوصلات اللي داخل
Once you
الترانسفورمر.
release the blade connector, I want you to refer to my other video. It's in the link you see right here. Next to this link, you'll see a number. That is the position in the video where you can jump to see just the testing for this transformer. If the transformer passes the test,
هو في الحقيقة عامل
alright, so the
فيديو
next step now would be to check
بيشرح
out the
فيه
magnetron. There's a Phillips screw
ازاي
holding one side
يتست
in. Unscrew that.
الكباستور دوت.
Okay, so you remove the screw holding in the magnetron. There might be a little bit of a clip, so just rotate it a
بيفك
bit.
الماجنترون اللي بيولد الموجات.
Now once you take out the magnetron, inspect the magnets, these donut magnets right here. Make sure they're not cracked. Check all the way around.
انت هنا
Shake it, make sure there's no rattling.
بتفحص الماجنترون بالمطر.
Check the end, make sure nothing's cracked.
مفيش حاجة محروقة.
So that looks good.
كلها
Now
سليمة.
the way to test this, go to your low ohm setting on your meter. In this case, mine goes down to 200.
انت هتقيسه باللو اوم سيتنج.
Connect one probe to one terminal, the other to the other terminal, and you should have a very, very low reading like you see here. You don't want a dead short. You don't want to see 3 zeros, but you want to see anywhere from 0.1 to 0.3 in that range. That's a good one. The next test for the magnetron is to raise your setting to the highest that you have for resistance. I'll put mine to a 20 meg.
بعد كده هترفع للهايست.
Megs, but I'll put it to 20. And what you want to do is you want to check. Let the meter go up.
2000 ميجا.
All right. You want to check between each pin of the magnetron to the body itself. You should see no reading show up on this meter.
open.
Right?
لازم يكون open مع الشاسيه. صح.
Check that one.
برضو.
Okay, we've established that the magnetron is good. Now on to the next step. Okay, the magnetron
هما الاثنين مع بعض بيدي زيرو.
Verified, that's okay. The transformer you verified from the other video, that's okay. Make sure the connector goes back in the same way you took it out. This wire here goes with the diode, so that's going to leave us 2 things to check out now. We're going to check out the capacitor and the diode. Now usually when a capacitor
هنا الخطوة الأخيرة إن إحنا نختبر.
You will experience a short circuit blowing the fuse or the circuit breaker. And if your diode is not proper, and if your diode's not working good, you're not going to have good heating of the food, and you also may have a louder noise coming from the magnetron, a different sound, like a different hum, then you'd want to check that out. So we're going to check out the capacitor first.
لو الدايود في مشكلة ده صوته عالي.
Okay, so now you want to remove the clip, the clamp holding down the diode and the capacitor. The diode can only go in one way. It's got a ring connector here and a blade connector here. So reach down. Okay.
هيفك الدايود هو دلوقتي اهو. خلي بالك ان الدايود هنا ليه اتجاه.
Nice to have a magnetized screwdriver. You'll see the line on the diode goes to the chassis. Open up this a little bit. Lift up. And pull the capacitor out. Let's back away a little bit. Alright, so there's the capacitor. Okay, so to test the capacitor is very simple. Once you remove it and you know for a fact it's been discharged, just double check by touching the terminals together. Alright. Put your meter on a 20 M setting. One probe.
بيفرغ هو بيتأكد انه فرغ الكباستور. هيقيس الكباستور هو دلوقتي.
Now when I connect it,
البروب بتاع
you want to see a high reading like in the millions, like 5 million. And you want to see it slowly go higher and higher and higher, like to 10 million. That would indicate a good capacitor.
لازم يبتدي من slow للhigher.
6, 7.
resistance.
As long as it does that, you're
يبقى
good.
ده
You don't want a low reading. If you get
high
anything that
resistance
stays where you connect it or it moves lower, that's a problem.
لو اتغير لتحت يبقى في مشكله في الكباستور دوت، لازم يتغير من لو ريزيستنس لهاي ريزيستنس في الهاي بالميجا اوم، يبقى ده جود كاباستور.
The next test to verify if this is any good, leave one terminal connected and take the other terminal on the 20 meg setting or 200 if you have it and connect it to the can. You want to make sure there's no connection
برضه
between the
بتختبر
terminal and the can.
لازم يكون في مفيش كونكشن بين الشاسيه والترمينالز. وهتختبر بعد كده الترمينال الثانيه زي ما عملنا مع الميجاترون، مفيش كونكشن يبقى
So it's acting properly and there's no connection on that range, so this is good to go.
مفيش كونكشن، مفيش اتصال، يبقى ده كده كاباستور مظبوط.
All right, now the way to test the diode is the last part to test.
ازاي نقيس الدايود دلوقتي؟ نتكلم عن الدايود.
If you have a meter that can go very high, like 2000 megohms, and if you don't have that,
برضه اتكلم لو انت عندك ابوميتر فيه 2000 ميجا اومز.
testing video, and you're also going to see a number in that link, which is going to open in a separate window. You won't lose this window, because that will allow you to jump to the part in the video where this testing is done. Now, if you do have a high resistance DMM, then the next step would be to put this on a high setting of say 2000.
حط برضو على الريزيستنس العالية جدا اللي هي 2000 أو 2000 ميجا أوم.
Without using your hands, you're going to take the meter.
تاخد الوايرز بتاعتك توصل البروب الأولاني بالطرف الأولاني.
One direction should go high. All right, and it should level
off. One direction go high. Okay. برضو بيتحرك from low to high.
That's fine. 275. Now, when you flip it around, you should get a low reading.
لو عكسنا.
Around 40 or so.
لو احنا عكسنا.
Okay. That's
بيبقى
good.
بيقل.
So you just confirmed that
ميجا أوم في اللاين.
This test works all the time as long as you have a high.
يبقى ده برضو إيه؟ Good.
And that's about it. That's all the parts that you
can
check. Make sure all the wiring harnesses and connectors are plugged in properly. Make sure there's no loose connections. And you should have no problem figuring out why your microwave is not working properly. If any of these tests failed or you have any loose wires, you should have discovered them by now. If you have any other questions, please post them in the comment section. I can assist you that way.
لو انت عندك اي اسئله اكتبها في الكومنت بتاعك، ولو الترجمه